Hi, this is Sue Greenwald. I'm here today with Awakened Stories and doing a video called Becoming Awakened with Elena Solano. Hi, Elena. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, but I'm good. How are
Yay. Yay. I'm excited to have you here. And every time you talk on our Jedi calls, I'm like I've messaged you. I'm so impressed that, being young, you've really gotten to a point where some of us older folks have worked our whole lifetime to be at. So I'm so excited to hear about your story, how you became awakened.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to be outright honest. I had a huge advantage because it started since childhood. I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if I'm going to say, I cannot sit here and I'd be lying if I sat here and said, oh, I was like 21 years old and one day I heard God speak to me. No, I always knew that I had been hearing him.
Right.
I know that is something that not a lot of people have. That's why when I look back on my life, I can sit there and appreciate and go, whoa, okay. Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to my childhood, actually.
Right.
So
So I know that you were homeschooled, or I think you were homeschooled. And so probably you weren't, I'm just going to say, as programmed as many of the kids are. And I feel like the programming, of course, it started, 50 or 60 years ago or whenever, but it's really, really amplified now. So the poor kids in school are really getting all sorts of things, you know, belief systems shoved down their throat. So
yes.
tell us a little bit about your childhood. Like, did you have a religious upbringing? Like, kind of what things did your parents do differently that probably contributed? And maybe, like, did you have experiences when you were a kid? Did they believe you? Like, what happened? Just give us an overview of that.
Um, I wouldn't say I want to say that my upbringing was more on the spiritual aspect. I mean, if you could equate anything to how I grew up to a religious belief, it would have probably been Christianity, but it wasn't your usual Christianity. I mean, we would try to attend a church and that would only last like maybe a month or two. And then we were like, our job here is done. Let's move the other way. And we would
Yeah.
every time. We just didn't ever feel like we fit. We never felt we could always see right through everything and everybody. My mom helped me out with that keen sense of discernment as well. So she modeled that for me. When I was a kid, I actually remember because we came out to Vegas from Georgia back 22 years ago almost. And I remember being a kid, my parents were going through a financial issue. And this is before I was baptized. This was before all of that stuff. I think I had to be between the ages of 3 and 4 when this happened. And my parents were going through some, excuse me, some financial difficulty. And I remember waking up early one morning. My parents were in the living room of the travel trailer we were coming out of. And I literally had an angel come in front of me, like up here. And he's like, let your parents know everything's going to be okay. And
Wow.
he's like, we're here. Don't let your parents know everything is going to be okay. And for some reason, when I heard that, when I think back, when I saw that, I became calm and I felt the sense of urgency to go tell them. I know that sounds like a conundrum, being calm and then the sense of urgency, but I could tell, even though I was a little kid, I didn't understand what was going on, but I knew my parents were worried. I mean, I don't care who you
Right.
are. A
Right.
child knows when their parents are worried.
Right.
It's just an energy that they put out there. A child's very sensitive. They feel that and they just feel the need to help. And I ran and I told my parents about it. And my dad, who was much older and a little more on the rough around the edges type when it came to the doubt, he he looked at me and like the look on his face, calm washed over his face when I went and ran and told my parents.
Oh my
And they
God.
stopped to believe me. It's almost as if the angel was speaking himself. They just stopped and were like, okay, so the whole atmosphere changed. My mom, and they believed me. They never said, oh,
Right.
honey, that's cute. You're just saying things. No, they stopped and took my word for it. And my mom, so my parents were a 20-year age difference. So my dad was a little, he knew and trusted God. and he was a little more on the religious side because he was so used to that conditioning. And so with the life that he experienced, he figured that his being spiritual meant you had to be religious. And it wasn't until, he was much older, he was having to take care of a family. So he was, the cookie cutter, this is how you're supposed to do things, has kind of fell into play. Whereas my mom, being a little more
non-traditional.
Non-traditional by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Being non-traditional, she sat there and she was more pliable to listening and receiving any quote unquote oddball things she might hear. And I mean oddball because that's what the world views it. We view it differently. It's normal to us. Right. This is our normal. This is okay, cool. The unusual is usual to us, which I find brilliant to this day. But when you mentioned about being conditioned, you're right. I wasn't. However, because right from the start, when my parents got together, my dad told my mom, we're homeschooling the kids because things are getting bad. So my dad was red pilled. He knew about MK Ultra. He knew about all that stuff. So he had that of this 3D understanding of what's going on. He had that. He told my mom, yo, I need you to homeschool the kids while I go to work. Yeah. This is how we need to do it. So in that aspect, he really did work on faith. And growing up, we were mocked, we were ridiculed, we were whole 9 yards. And my mom and dad never failed. They're like, nope, watch. What we're doing right now, we might be laughed at now, but it's going to pay off in the future. And I can't help but go, man, my parents were right. And I'm so glad I kind of followed suit when it comes to the way that I'm bringing up my family. So
right.
I'm extremely fortunate, and I really owe a lot of my childhood to how I am right now. My faith was nurtured. It wasn't ripped from me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had a question or you saw something unusual, you would go to one of your parents, and it's probably your mom, and she would ask the right questions, and she wouldn't ridicule you. She wouldn't make you shut down, right?
No, not at all. I mean, every once in a while, because back in the day, because like you said, we were all conditioned. We all were. Right. I don't care how awake you are right now, not awake, but I don't care how awake you are right now. Everybody, no help of anybody, it's nobody's fault, but everybody was born into a level of conditioning. Just like there are levels of awareness and the levels of being awake, there's levels of conditioning. So while it's not, I always felt like I was different, and I always knew that there was something. I mean, we all did, but there'd be times where my parents would, and nothing against them, obviously, but they would sit there and say, oh, you're stuck in La La Land. And I would sit there and I'm just like, am I really stuck in La? Like, I wasn't sure. That's the part that I wasn't sure about. And they were just, and look, in hindsight, they were just trying to look out for me. Like, okay, she's got her head in the clouds, she needs to come back down to reality, things like that. But looking back, they were looking out for me, which I truly appreciate. And they were also at the same time trying to help me make sense of things.
Right.
But at the same time, they didn't completely understand what was going on in my head, because they were just doing what was best. And and later on we'll come back to it, and my mom and I will be like, no, you never had your head in the clouds and all that. I love that. So I'm not crazy, because it's cool. I mean, everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody, I mean, we all, as while we're doing the best that we can, trying to do the best for my kids, I'll sit there and I'll say something, and then I'll hear, like one time with my daughter, she was sleeping, then it was late in the afternoon, it was going on noon. My daughter never sleeps in that late, and I go and wake her up. I'm like, baby, come on, wake up. And she sat there and she was just like, and she wouldn't wake up. She was stone cold. And I woke her up. She goes, Mom, I was busy. And I straight up heard him go, okay. I said, oh my God, I'm sorry. I interrupted her from something. He goes, okay, now you know. He goes, don't ever do it again. I'm like, done deal. I'm sorry. I should not have interrupted her. My bad. And I did. After that, now I'll question him anytime I see her sleeping. I'm like, is it okay to work? Now she's just sleeping. Or okay, I'm leaving her be. We go the other way. So it's cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, did your parents tell you about, say, God, source? Did they explain that to? Did you have an automatic belief system, or did it develop, or how did that come about? And it sounds like you directly hear from him, or we call source him, I guess. our group calls Source Daddy. But do you hear it verbally, or what modality do you use mostly?
Well, it's both. It's actually three parts.
Yeah.
I want to say. I've always had a keen sense to pay attention. I've always tried to anyway. When I was a kid, it just kind of happened. And then it was like when my parents would talk about Jesus Christ, I was like, oh, that's who I need. It's almost like I was born with it, but then they would say Jesus Christ, and I'm like, okay, that's who I have to follow. Okay, they resituated my brain. I'm here now. I know that that's who I've been following the whole time. We're good to go. And yeah, so then they would talk to me more about Jesus Christ and everything like that. So I've always had what you would call a belief system, or
right,
or something to that nature, and it just developed naturally. It wasn't like it just came naturally, and it felt normal to me. It really did.
Right.
When it comes to like the way that I hear him, is three parts. Sometimes I'll rack my brain trying to hear him, and I hear silence, and I'll be talking to my mom. I'm like, Mom, she's like, shut up. He's busy listening. He's busy giving you a big old hug. Can you feel him? And I'm like, oh yeah, there he is. Cool. We're good. Because that doubt comes in, because we're all breaking the molds of mental constructs, how you're supposed to have faith, things of that nature. I will get imaging, just snapshots of scenarios, or in my head, and then I will see it, I'll recollect, and then I will hear it.
Okay.
Or I get what you call gut checks. A lot of the time, that's how I will either get a yay or an nay. Sometimes I have to take a step back just to come back and rehear the answer, just so I know that I'm hearing correctly. So either gut checks, mental images, or his voice, straight out.
Okay, so pretty much every modality comes into play. And so your parents did teach you about, say, God and Jesus, but you kind of had an intuitive knowing that was truth.
Yes.
And you basically kind of developed just automatically talking with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, your whole life. Wow.
Yeah, my whole life. That's what's exciting. And I don't take it for granted. I don't. The one thing I do wish I had changed, and there's nobody but myself holds responsibility for that. I wish, because when you look at it, becomes a little bit bigger than just your childhood. You have to look at other lives you might have had, or so on and so forth. The thing that I wish I had stopped doing was doubting myself from the start.
Right.
And my doubt there, I'm known for having a crippling doubt, and always having to make sure to check. And I'm just so predisposed to, or I was, I'm not saying I am, because I was predisposed to checking myself at the door. I mean, today I heard him tell me, quit checking yourself at the door like that. Really? Like, stop it. And I'm like, okay, duly noted. So, it's just that, because we have to remember our thoughts, our brains are our beautiful brains. And then you have thoughts that are suggested. You have things that swirl around. And I would just sit back and pick a thought and overanalyze this crap. Ooh. Okay. And once I was satisfied with overanalyzing it, then I would let it go. Maybe. And it's like, I've been teaching myself, I've been trusting him. And after a while, he's like, and I'm like, okay, done deal. I'm letting it go. And he's like, just go be happy, do something, be happy, and forget all about it. Yeah. So I've been having to, it's a lot more simple. That's the funny part people don't understand. It's a lot more simple than you give your faith in your journey with him credit for. Your faith is only as easy and simple as to the amount of trust that you have in him. So depending on how much you trust him, it can either be extremely hard or extremely easy, so to speak. And I'm not saying, faith is a walk in the park, but I'm just saying, to that level, he'll have obstacles that are difficult, yes, but to the amount of, faith that you have, it can either go easy for you or hard for you in that difficulty. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I think what you just said about control is so true, because we think we control our lives, right? We make these decisions, we're running around, we're blah, blah, blah.
Right.
it's quite a joke because nothing ever goes to plan. Like we might have a structure or whatever, and maybe like we follow the structure, but nothing ever goes to plan. And there's a bigger plan than we know. Like we're just kind of the pawns. And I don't like that word.
Yeah, I know what you mean, more or less. It's almost like, okay, so it's like you're in an army, right? An amazing army. You're this, I don't know, you're this general or a private or whatever you are, whoever you are, and you're thinking to yourself, well, my schematics were best. This is how we are going to, execute this plan. And you've got him upstairs going, that's cute. I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I don't love the word pawn that I just used. I think proxy is more of it. It's like we're the physical body that carries out what spirit wants us to do.
Exactly.
But programming, we think the body, we make those decisions, and it's laughable because we control pretty much nothing. Like we can't even control what our child does. Okay.
No, we can't.
You think you're the parent, you can, you can't control what anyone or anything does.
And if you think you can, you're learning it the hard way. Why do you think, and I'm so glad you brought up this topic of being a parent. Why do you think these parents struggle so badly?
Yeah.
I mean, training up your children in him is difficult enough as it is, because you have the entire world with the programming, like we just said, trying to infiltrate. You've got the opinions of, friends, family. You got the opinions of everybody else. And you got the most important input, which is his. And you want to abide solely by him. Plus, you got all their different little personalities. And, if you're not in touch with him, then it's going to be difficult. I don't want my child to do this. I don't want my child to do that. Oh, they would never. It's not your journey. It's not your life. Technically, they're not your children. So, you have to yes, there are children here on this earth, but at the same time, it's like it's been said beautifully before, they are here experiencing they're a soul experiencing something, another life. And you have to respect that. We don't own our children. We don't. So the moment that you stop sitting there and thinking to yourself, don't worry, that could never happen to my Johnny. You lost. You freaking lost. And guess what? You're only going to make your life that much more difficult. Once you relinquish control, yes, is it going to be hurtful if you see your children doing something that you didn't want them to do? Of course. But it'll hurt less once you give up that control and trust. Okay, the creator has them. And if I try to sit there and take control, I'm saying I'm the creator, which no, I'm not. I'm giving that to him because he's got them at the end of the day. I just got to continue to put that energy out, continue to trust them and love them unconditionally. So
yeah, I think controlling, like especially someone else's beliefs or behaviors, it's really the ultimate form of ego. We think human, we know better than source. Okay, like, oh, I know blah blah blah. Well, that is a joke. Like we only know like a pinprick in an entire universe worth of information. And we don't know the plan. We don't know why they're here. We don't know what everyone's mission is. So, you set the structure, you give them confidence. You're there to, educate them as much as you're able to, but you have to let them go. And it's like hold them loosely so that, that you're there for them, you're supporting them, but they get to explore the world.
Exactly. And that's another thing. Ego and pride, that's another thing people have to understand too. While you are here for your children, the other thing you have to respect is that your children are here for you too.
Right.
They can bring something to the table and you can learn so much from them as they are learning from you. Because for all you know, they could be older than you.
Right.
You may be older than them in this flesh and you're teaching them the ABCs and, hey, look, I'm just showing you the ropes of what this thing called life. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to teach you the how to maneuver these obstacles and guide them. Or at the end of the day, you have to stop and realize, okay, so I have to go and listen to him because seriously, I have to release them at some point. This is just their school and their comfort, and I have to be their friend and their mentor while they're here because I have to trust that when they get out there, I would have instilled everything in them that he told me to.
Right.
So, and that's the scary part, because you never know. You never know what, I mean, you do know, but you have to work on, again, faith. A lot of people don't like that F word, but it's true.
Yeah.
They don't like that. I mean, and I'm not going to say, when I say this, I'm not saying that, oh my goodness, this is how it's supposed to. No, it's supposed to be done like that. But I even make mistakes. There are times where, I make mistakes, and then I go to him and I'm so sorry. And then I sit down and I apologize to my children. I remove that ego. That way they can sit there, because when I do that, they're looking at me like, Mom doesn't think she's better than me. She's just trying to teach me, and later on it'll make us closer. That way, when we get to be the same age, like me and my mom, we heckle at bull crap, we do energy work together, and she is my friend. Like our relationship goes beyond mother and daughter, and that's the goal. Yeah. I believe. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I feel like I told you this. You remind me a little bit of my daughter, who she was extremely tuned in from day one. But the problem is, I didn't really recognize that until she was maybe 8, 9, 10. Like I didn't even though I know and understand, I was busy with life. Okay, working, doing the mom thing, laundry, food, blah blah blah. So I really didn't realize what she had and what she was until she was a little older. She's amazing, but she has so many of the same values that you do. And I feel like I made a lot of mistakes too, but again, I'm there to support them no matter what. And I feel like she is older than me. In fact, I'm getting that she was my mother in another lifetime, and her husband was my dad. And that's why, even as a young kid or even a teenager, I'd be doing something like, wah, and she would grab it out of my hand, or she'd do it better than I would. And I was like,
the thing is, sorry.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be the mom, right? But she's better than me.
But what's beautiful is that you saw that. You didn't squelch that in her. You didn't tell her she was wrong because she's the child. And it's like, you nurtured that. I wish so many people would understand that. You're nurturing. That's all you're doing. You're nurturing the giftings that they already have, and you're teaching them how to use their abilities and how to curb, and that's beautiful of you. I love hearing stories about that. I don't know. I get excited when I hear things like that.
Well, so basically, your childhood, you had very open belief system, and you were allowed to explore and believe what you wanted to, it sounds like, which is amazing. There was guidance there, but it wasn't you've got to believe this, you've got to do this, you've got these rules. It doesn't sound like you had a lot of that, so you were free.
More or less. I was taught principle. I was taught how to hear out for him. I was taught to have a relationship with him. When it comes to belief systems and whatnot, it was, like I said, it was a little more Christianity based, because we thought that, but my mom still didn't like the word Christian. We just followed a lot of those principles, When it came to, although I'm going to admit this one, when it came to different religions, because I believe that every religion can have a principle that is from daddy, but people took those principles and just decided to turn a religion into them, and you do this and the other, they put mental constructs around these principles, calling it religion. That's the point. So I would turn a deaf ear to most religions, but if I heard something, I would just take the truth from it and then walk on. You know what I'm saying? So that's I was taught. I was scared for a while. I was scared to always make a mistake. That's something that I always kind of suffered from. But once I started realizing that Daddy says there's no mistakes in art. I love you. When I started realizing that, especially when I'm in him and we're of the like, you can't lose, that took a huge load off, that doubt will creep in, but that took a huge load off. So, if I heard something and possibly went, maybe, he'll correct it and go, no, that I know what that's trying to look like, but you need to look at it from this lens. Oh, okay. Yeah. Take that nugget of truth that you heard and see how I direct it this way. And I would lead that way. So oh my goodness. The reason why we never got along in church was because of the fact that I didn't have a set, rigorous belief system, me or my family. I mean, we would leave church. We got kicked out of a church. It was fun. My mother was called a Jezebel, and we were the troublemakers. Yeah, I was bullied in church. You would have thought I'd been to school, and me and my siblings were just like shrugged it off and walked the other way. It was awesome.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
Well, we had kids telling us you're stupid because you're homeschooled. We had kids calling us ugly, all sorts of stupid crap. And me and my siblings are like, we're going to believe this crap? Nah, we're not going to believe this crap. We're going to laugh it off and we moved on. That's how we handle things. I mean, I think it's hilarious. I wouldn't change it. I really wouldn't.
It sounds like you had a really strong family bond. And so together you were so much stronger and you could support each other. And I'm really sad that happened and actually a little surprised. Like where I, had my kids and they grew up, there was a really big homeschool community. I didn't really get it. I didn't understand it. I mean, I liked the people. They integrated, like they played sports with the kids or whatever. They were nice people, but I didn't understand the homeschooling until, of course, my kids were out of school. Right. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I had done it, but it's the circumstances. So,
well, I don't ever sit there, and I tell people this too. I like to tell people, oh, I wish, especially my mom. For example, if we're going to talk about things like I wish I shouldn't have, I said, the vaccines, right? Perfect example, vaccines. So while I was homeschooled, one thing that happened to me was I got vaccinated as a baby. My mom was 24 years old when she had me. She is always been awake, but she's working in it this time. She's working in her faith more and more. And I'm about to have a disclaimer. Your 20s are annoying. And they just are. The 20s are annoying. I'm in my late 20s and they're still annoying the hell out of me. Anyway, she was in her, and this is why I appreciate that. She was in her early 20s. She had me and she was doubting, like, do I want to vaccinate my daughter? I mean, she's a brand new baby. She's got a new immune system. Why should I? And she was going to church at the time. Oh, vaccinate. That, the God would want you to protect your child. So you must go get vaccinated. And, so she doubted and she got me vaccinated. Right. And she didn't get my full shots or anything like that. She just did it a couple of times. And then when my baby sister came around and almost died from the vaccine, my mom just stopped. She was like, nope, I'm good. I'm done. Yeah. Never happening again. I should have trusted my freaking instinct. So years go down the road and my mom, I feel so terrible for her. I wish she would stop. She'd be like, oh my God, I wish I had never done that because I can still see how this affects you and this affects you. And in my head, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm cleared. We transmuted that. So I'm just going to blow it off. Right. I'm like, Mom, first of all, look at your intention. I said, do you think if you had, without a shadow of a doubt about this stuff, you would have done it anyway? She goes, no. I said, well, there you go. You didn't know, you doubted. It happens to the best of us. I mean, you have all these supposedly godly people, right? Telling you to do this and ridiculing you if you don't. And you were how old? Yeah, I get it too. I mean, I said, you don't support it. Yeah, if that's not who you are, you're fine. I was like, let it go. You were doing what was best for me at the time. Right, that's what you thought was best for me. So exercise your faith and know that I'm totally fine. I'm just, me and my sister are both okay. So that's
right. I feel like part of it too is when you have kids, and of course, we have the practical concerns. We have to work. We have to, do all the house stuff and the food and blah, blah, blah. We're busy. And this is even before the cell phones were out. Okay. Yeah. We're busy. We're running around like crazy. And you really have limited white space in your life to actually think, is this a good decision? Or, what's the ulterior motive here? Okay. Because and now the pace has been amped up like a jillion fold.
Exactly.
Moving fast.
No, exactly. It's almost like for years, people thought, I got to give my kids milk because it strengthens their bones, right? So everybody's going on and going, I got to give my kids milk. I got to give my kids milk. And it's like it's like that white space you're talking about. Nobody stopped to sit there and consider for the longest time up until recently, within the past 15, 20 years, people haven't stopped and thought, wait a minute, why am I giving my kids milk from a bovine? is this really healthy for them? Because all they were used to was, you got to give them milk, that make them, their bones nice and strong. You got to do this. You got to, with no realization as to why it may not be good, but you're just doing it because that's what tradition told you to do. That's what, that's part of the whole conditioning. And everybody thought, wait a minute, I didn't mean to be possibly doing harm to my child by giving them freaking milk, but, or not that it's harm, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I do. Yeah, they had a whole campaign on milk, I don't know, 80s, 90s, 2000, where they'd have the little white milk mustache, got milk, and it would be all these famous people, right? And nobody knows, but the beef and the dairy guys were on the board for the FDA, right? So they basically bought a position, if you will, and then they promoted their agenda for what? To sell more meat, to sell more dairy.
Exactly.
And people don't realize that stuff really is not good for you. We think that the only way we can get protein is from meat, and the only, like, we can get calcium from milk. Not true. And that belief system is still out there, and actually that stuff is not healthy for us. But that's just a side note, but it's an example of the belief system. And even if we change the belief today, and propaganda and ads went out, oh, milk is not good for you, you should do this or that, and it was true and scientifically proven and all that, it would probably take 2 or 3 generations for that to come out of our belief system, and that's just one little subsection of an unhealthy social life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or the mental construct of, if you don't send your children to school, this is the lie we've heard all our friggin' life. If you don't send them to school, they're gonna be socially awkward. They're not gonna know how to interact. They might not be proficient. And my thing is, when I love hearing that from people, because I'm a chatty Cathy. I know how to blend in and blend out of a crowd. My personality, I adapt. I'm what course has said, be all things to all people. That's one of the cool things I love to do, is just blend into a crowd and know how to speak to different people by their personality. And I'm thinking to myself, let's see, if I really had issue with, if I was homeschooled, I'm about to debunk everything for you. If that was actually the case, look at me. I should be a hermit crab. I shouldn't even be speaking to you right now. So that's why I can't help but go, I think it's generational too. As the generations come along, they are debunking things left and right. And it's up to other people whether they want to accept it and run with it and support, or stay stuck in that shell. And at this point, you're choosing. Like, there's no, you know what I'm saying? I think there just needs to be a give and take on both sides. So
yeah. Well, people don't understand, and obviously they were not educated, nor was I. I wasn't rude to the people that homeschooled, but I wish I had known more. And could I have done it? I don't know, because I worked. Of course, we're all forced to work like 2 billion jobs, right, to just support our families anymore. But
that's sad. That is so sad. I think, and that's another thing too. I think, like my dad and the generations before me, I appreciate that. That should never be diminished. That should never be. It was a part of the process. It was a part of this point that got us here. I do not ever sit there and go, well, you should have done this, and oh, you should have done that, and oh my goodness, no. We learned from these things. All what we're doing right now brought us to this point. And the fact that you were ready to realize that it was your time. It was your time to learn. And now it's your turn to, you can do one or two things. Sit there, take that information and put it on the shelf, or use it. Use it to, exercise and help free somebody else up. That's the thing. So that's another part of the construct, when you sit there and you're just like, well, if I had only, okay, but that's not how it happened. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, whatever. It's not how it worked out. But
helping.
You know what I'm saying? There's no point in looking back there. Like,
So you pretty much have talked with Source your entire life, direct connection.
Yes.
And if you're going to do the wrong thing, you'd get a little message. It would steer you in the right direction. You'd kind of, listen most of the time.
Most of the time. I ain't perfect. Nobody to listen. People still think they got the right idea and do the other thing. Sometimes I'm like, I'm guilty of that crap.
Yeah. Do you feel like the pace of that connection that the strength of that connection? Has it increased? Has it sped up? Like, was there a catalyst, maybe an event or a person or something that sped that connection up for you?
That's a good question. I think, okay, I'm trying to figure out. So when I became, so I'd always had that connection. It was always there. Then I became a single mom, and there was a time where I did stop listening to him. Now this is going to run in, trust me. I'm going somewhere.
Good.
Then I became upset. I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed. I was very upset with him. I'm like, really? You didn't see what I've been doing and you're gonna leave me as a single mom? Little did I know there were directives behind that, but I just stopped. I kind of shut down. I always loved him, trusted him, but there was a moment I had a bit of a, lack of faith, not lack of faith, but I don't want to talk to him moment, and I went the other way. That happened.
Yeah.
And it didn't last very long. And I was just kind of felt like what's Source always shows me, you were still trusting, even though you were mad at me. So you're good. I continued on and I continued to work, low-key still having faith in him, but not talking to him. And it wasn't after I met my husband. And then I started realizing, okay, my faith is back. I'm talking to him a little more. And being married, it really helped. Marriage is challenging. It's beautiful. I love it, but it's also challenging. And so I began to start talking to him again and exercising that part of myself again and going forward. And it was, I want to say 2018, when I started noticing the escalation of energies, the escalation of ascension, because I started getting, I started getting anxious, and it wasn't until later that I started realizing Source was taking me through an exercise. I was being trained, and I was getting attacked, and it was awful. And I was also having things holding me backwards. My doubt, all of that jargon that I always didn't do back then, like doubting myself and all that good stuff, bad stuff. I was doing all of that, and I realized, oh my God, my past is holding me back. And it's literally time for me to let this go, because he started showing me the kind of responsibility I have within my home. And I started making me realize, okay, I need to get into gear. I need to start listening to him more, and I need to start exercising that more. So I started doing that. It was hard. I've been exercising new muscle and everything. And then it wasn't until COVID happened for 2018, it started to escalate, and I started noticing the escalation happening quicker. I started noticing energies. Not that I never did, but they became more and more apparent to me, is the best term.
Right.
And more apparent to me. I started noticing things. I started putting things together and then storing them in the back of my head. So, because if I didn't understand what was going on right now, I figured I'd probably figure it out later.
Right.
So it wasn't until COVID happened, 2020, and I started connecting and started realizing what I'd been doing I'm sorry, I'm getting chills and I'm getting, anyway, I started activating more and more and more, that I couldn't help but realize, oh my God, I've been on the right track this entire time. I just started exercising faith and getting onto it the entire time. And that's another thing I want to mention. When it comes to Source directives, okay, just for a half minute, I was always very careful. My mom was very helpful, and he has always been helpful. When it comes to gurus, when it comes to going to church, when it comes to all this stuff, my spirit automatically let me know, nope, definitely not. Yeah, I know that might look right, but it's fool's gold. Move along, like I always knew. But then a couple of years ago, I found Source directives and all that, and my spirit went from, okay, wait, to, okay, hold on to it and take off running. And I did.
Wow.
I didn't have a whole lot of time to question, because I knew there was no need to question. I just took off running. And after a while, everything that I saved in my database started popping up everywhere. And I was just like, okay, here I am. Not that I have it figured out, but now everything that I went through, everything that I've been saying, it's been making sense to me. I've been doing energy work this entire time. I just didn't know what to call it, because back then we've been calling it one thing, and now that the matrix just busted like a, you know, a cheap champagne glass, now I'm starting to see things clearly. When the veil busted, things inside of me began to escalate more and more and more. And it was scary. Not gonna lie, it was scary. With the faith that I had even back then, it was scary. But it wasn't until I started understanding how to look things in source's point of view did I begin to regain and find the strength that I never knew I had. And
Wow.
I didn't realize I had that kind of strength. And he chuckles and he'll sit there, even now, 2 years later, even now he'll sit there and look at me and he'll be like, I told you. I told you. I just was hoping and waiting for you to click. Yeah, okay, there she is. Okay, we're back now. You ready to talk now? Yeah, I'm ready to talk. You know, it still happens, you know, every once in a while, you know, and I'm learning how to not be there. I'm learning how to not be in that, you know, what if? No, I just have to remember what he says, because his words are eternal. That's just all there is to it. So his words are eternal. He gives me refreshers. Boom, do this. Okay, cool. Or boom, here's a really cool quote to give you. And he gives it to me, and he's taught me. I begin to learn how to see him in everything. That was something that I remember one time when I was a kid, one of the church that I got kicked out of, I went to this summer camping. These people, we are not listening to secular music, okay? I mean, it's gotta, if it doesn't have Jesus Christ and Jesus loves me in it, then it's secular. We are not listening to anything else. Mind you, my daddy was a 60s child. My mama was an 80s child. You think all I was listening to was Jesus loves me? This I know? No. Yes, we had praise and worship in my house, and it was beautiful and it was awesome. But I knew how to listen for him in different songs. And there'd be times where I would listen to him and he was showing me more and more, speed it up till now. And I started looking for him everywhere, and I would find him. I would find him because he was waiting for me to look for him. And it's awesome. It's beautiful. That's why when that happened, I couldn't help but go, wait, I thought if you mean to tell me that God is everywhere, why do I only have to experience him in a church? And why is it that the only way to experience him is with praise and worship songs? And I'm not dogging praise and worship songs. I'm just saying, what if I feel like listening to AC/DC, Hell's Bells comes on, and daddy wants to talk to me through Hell's Bells? Because that happened one time. That's a true story.
Whoa, let's hear the story.
I was going to pick up my husband from school. And I was putting on Hell's Bells, and part of me was like, oh my God, Hell's Bells. Oh my God, Hell's Bells. And this is before I realized heaven and hell, like hell didn't exist or anything like that, that we're living hell, right? Like hell is what you make it. I know that sounds like crap, but it's true. Now I understand it a little more clearly. I was driving to go pick him up, and I heard daddy come in, and he was just like, yeah, because that's what my son did. He went down to hell, and he rang Hell's Bells, and he destroyed all of it now, and then he left. Like, he comes in and destroys. Like, are you seriously going to sit there and tell me you're going to limit Jesus? You're going to limit Sananda? You're going to limit God? Because that's what you're doing. You sit there and say, well, there's no way I can share him in this. So you mean to tell me you're going to try to silence and censor God for all practical purposes? That's what you're telling me, right? And I found myself doing it. One time I said one thing, and I literally heard daddy swear. No lie. And I sat there and I was like, I couldn't possibly hear. That's not the case. And then he was like, I'm like, what? He goes, I created all, right? Like, how about I'm just leveling with you? How about I'm just being real with you? Do you really think all I do is sound like they and thee and thou and woe and all this stuff that people read in the New King James Version? No, I'm leveling with you, sweetheart. So relax. And like, that was the energy I got. And afterwards, I was like, okay.
We're chill.
Please, like, it's awesome. I'm sorry, but when you give yourself the opportunity to be free in him, what do you have to lose? Seriously, faith is the most beautiful thing anybody could experience. It's your own personal journey. He will speak to you in the way that you are, not in the way that society wants you to be, but in the way that you are. So, yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm the most free that I am now than I was 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I think that would be very freeing if you don't have to like limit your speech, your behavior. Like I mean, obviously you're not out doing bad things to people or whatever. You're
No,
you're not having to monitor what you're saying. You're open with your language. You've got a pure heart. You're doing it from a pure heart.
exactly.
It's got to be free.
Because words, that's another thing people don't understand. Words are language doesn't necessarily exist up there. The words we speak doesn't ever come close to what actually is expressed up there. They're really not. Because if you think about it, we all work on a telepathic level. That was dumbed down. So you bring
Right.
language into the picture, the Tower of Babel happens, and now everybody's being confused with spell work. I mean, if you even look at the English language, do you see how frustrating that is? How many times do we have the word throw or through? When you think about it like that, it's like, I have to sit there and tell my daughter, because as we're learning how to read, she'll be like, Mommy, why is PHF? I'm like, honey, only in this word, it's PH is F. Those are the rules. I do not know, but that's just how it is. That's how it's been. I never invented the language, so I don't know. But if you think about it, they are meant to trip you up and confuse you.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I'm just like, okay, so you realize how to catch this. And me and my mom, whenever I go to talk and words get the better of us, we'll just look at each other and we're like, I got you. It's cool. I know exactly. I saw what you were thinking. Yeah, I saw it. Very good.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Cool. And we move on. So
Awesome.
words don't really mean anything.
So you'd say that for you, the awakening energy, if you will, like really sped up in 2018, that you felt more clear, more open, more free, but things are moving fast. Any, like, I guess, catalyst experiences, cool things that might have happened?
Well, there are, okay. Huh. Yes and no. Well, yes. When I would go through, because fear is huge, I would be scared a lot. And then Source would, when I started feeling attacks, Source would pull me out of them and I would come alive. One time I was going through a very scary time and I was questioning myself. I was like, oh my God, have I always had, maybe I'm dark? Have I always been this way and I didn't know? And yeah, he would sit. One time my mom took me and she put me out. I went out. What people call putting out in the spirit, I was just out. I left my body. Source took over and I was there. And all of a sudden, I think it was Isaiah. There was a prophet that laughed a lot. What was his name? I think it was Isaiah. There was a prophet in the Bible and he laughed a lot. Or Isaac. I think it was Isaac. Anyway, there was somebody in the Bible and I felt that spirit while I'm over here feeling that heaviness. I'm feeling that spirit of laughter come into me. And it was cool. And my mom goes, funny, I said, man, why is it I feel the spirit of Isaac? And my mom goes, funny, I was about to name, if we didn't know if you were a boy or a girl, and if you were going to be a boy, we're going to name you Isaac. I was like,
wow.
So I got the feeling to just laugh. And I just started giggling. I just started laughing. And the more I started laughing, the higher I felt myself vibrate. I felt Source. And we were all laughing together. And everything just started melting away. And I gained such a huge boost of confidence in him. I started seeing things. Clearly. That was beautiful. And I will never forget that day. And I started hearing him talk to me. I just started hearing him talk to me almost like we were having coffee or we were eating lunch. Okay. You know, like when you're sitting there across from a buddy and you're just talking and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're like this. Yeah. You know that guy? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So go with that. Like, it was super cool. It was super relaxing. I felt liberated afterwards. And of course, I was told that obviously we're going to be tested in our faith because never do we just get a huge boost and just leave it there. You're going to be made to exercise that, okay? Because you need to work those breakthroughs. Those muscles need to work. You don't want them to atrophy, so you need to exercise it, okay? Because the dark ones are never going to stop.
Yeah.
And you need to exercise yourself. You need to keep going because you don't have time to sit there and wonder about yourself. So that happened. And then whenever I have to say, whenever I go into labor, like whenever I've had children, that is another thing. I hear him clearly and I begin to see other things. I begin to speak, and I don't care who is in the room. I just talk. And that is like that have been some of my most unhindered moments, is when I'm just talking to him and I don't care who's in sight, because I trust I'm being used as a vessel right now. People are going to see source or daddy, whether they like it or not. And if they don't see him, it's because they didn't want to look. That happened. Then past the transitioning of my father was another helpful thing. Yeah, because I saw him pass, and it was beautiful. I saw him pass and I literally saw him get escorted to the other side. I literally saw his spirit leave his body. So that was beautiful, and we rejoiced for him. I mean, and it was cool because knowing what I know now, I couldn't help but be happy. I mean, yes, I was sad and I did my tearful,
Right.
but I never got into like a depressed stage. I never did. I cried, but I did, with my understanding, I could hear him more. I could literally get in touch with my dad. We still talk, and I feel closer to him now than he did when he was Earthside.
Wow. That's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are just a few examples. I mean, I have little happenings with him not little, but I have happenings with him all the time that make me so invigorated in my faith. I couldn't ask for anything more. I really couldn't.
It really, I mean, it sounds like you've really had a great, a childhood support system, a good belief system. You've, I think because of the family support you've had and the freedom you've had, it's really allowed you to be the best version of you. And you're becoming that more and more each day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I decided to let go of control. I decided to put away all mental constructs that I was put under. And I decided to call out that's not of him and work in it. I mean, it's super simplistic. When I realized how simple it was, things got easier if I let them. So that's what I did. And that's why I'm just trying to make sure to the best thing that I can do right now. The biggest exercise I'm going through right now is removal of doubt.
Right.
Not doubt of him, not whatsoever, but doubt in myself and my abilities, and understanding and accepting and embracing how powerful I am.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's going to be really helpful once you get your memories back, I think.
I know.
Crazy.
And I'm like, he's like, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Can I remember that?
We don't understand yet fully. We don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm excited about it because I only get snippets. Like, I'm not as tuned in as you are. I get snippets and it's like, so I put them in the back burner, but I want to know I'm very curious. I want to know more,
Right. Oh, exactly. It's almost like
a
movie trailer or something like that. It's like, oh my goodness, that's awesome. Oh,
I want to know more. Yeah.
And we're not ready yet. That's fine. Once we're ready, he's like, okay, you can see this, you can see that. One time I was talking to him and I was like, how come you didn't show me this before? He goes, because you weren't ready for it. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Here I go again, trying to control things.
Yeah.
That's another thing people need to do. They gotta laugh at themselves. People take themselves way too seriously. If you're not laughing at yourself, then how are you enjoying anything around you?
It's true.
It brings on transparency, and it gives you the opportunity. It makes you it makes you teachable.
Right.
It makes you teachable.
So is there any, do you feel like your vibration has raised as your life has gone on? Like you're a higher vibration now than, like you said, 2018 was a big catalyst year. Your vibration is higher now than it was then, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it's only going to get higher as time goes on. Are there tips you would give other people for raising their vibration or getting to be more open-minded / awakened, conscious, whatever you want to call it? Do you have any ideas how, let's say, the average person watching this video, like what could they do to make themselves better, I guess, more awake?
Stop looking at what your neighbor is doing. Stop. What might work for your neighbor might not work for you. What might work for you might not work for your neighbor. So for example, you got people that use the crystals, or like, like precious crystals or gemstones or something like that.
Right.
That might work for them. Or meditation might work for them. Meditation might not work for you. Some people might, what do you enjoy doing? Because Source wants you to get back to that childlike side. Do you like art and crafts? Do that. You want to go outside and play, run, or you like to run and you feel like you hear him there, go do that. Where do you feel the most childlike? Because as children, we are the most in tune. We were the, well, we were.
Right.
That's when we were, children are very sensitive. Get back in touch with that little kid side. And you will definitely.
Right.
I know I do. Like, I'll be putting on songs that I used to remember when I was a kid, and I'll crank them up and I'll just hear him, hey, how's it going? We're going to talk. And it's like, it's awesome. And I feel bubbly. I feel amazing inside. So remove any mental constructs you have of faith. So because they said that this is the best way. No, scratch that. What works for you? What works for you? And keeping that also aids, it's a double fold, because it also aids in raising your vibration and giving yourself that space and that opportunity to be in your heart center. Be in your heart center. Remember who you are. The most simplistic thing Source will be telling me, he's like, just be yourself.
Really?
Be yourself. You're really cool. If you give yourself that opportunity to be your unadulterated self,
right,
then you'll realize how amazing you are. You'll see what I see in you, and you'll hear me clearly. So do me a favor, put those dishes away, go play with your kids, get in touch and hang around with children and enjoy them, have fun with them, because they will help you see how the child inside of you that's beautiful, and you'll be able to hear him, because at the end of the day, we are all his creations. We are all his children. So don't you think you want to go back to the basics? So yeah,
it's being true to yourself. And it's like you said, you're also light and high when you're open, you're playing, you're doing what you love. Let's say you like to paint, or you like to, play basketball. It doesn't matter what it is. If you do those things, it lifts your spirit. And that really allows a stronger and more easy connection to Source.
Exactly. It really does. Like, there are times, at least once a week, I take a drive down to my mom's house, because I always loved driving. I don't know. I love driving. I've loved driving since I was a kid. I do it as a pastime. And I'll be like, oh my God, the gas. I do. I'll late at night. I like nighttime driving, but I'll be like, oh my God, the gas. And so it's like, just get in your car. I always got that covered. Don't worry about gas. And so we get little. But I'll get in my car and I put on music that I personally enjoy. If it doesn't, so long as it doesn't offend my spirit, I feel like being myself. Okay, I'm just gonna put it on. Michael Jackson is one of my favorites that I just love to blast. If anybody ever asks me, that's my jam. I love listening to him. I love, and I hear him talking to me through Michael Jackson. Like, why not? Who said you couldn't be listening to, I don't know, Smooth Criminal, and he's not saying something to you? I mean, seriously, you can find him anywhere. But so I'll get into that side where I enjoy listening to him, and I'll be like, Daddy will show me, hey, you're a pretty cool person when you're by yourself. Look how cool. How do you feel about that? And I just, and this is he's speaking to me that way because of how I've been with myself, because he's taught me, Elena, would you please give yourself a break, honey? You judge you more than I judge you. He doesn't want you doing that. He wants you, if you're how are we supposed to love other people and put that out there when we're not even giving ourselves that opportunity to cut ourselves our own slack, so it just depends on everybody's personality type. And quit acting like you know everything. That's another way that you keep your vibrations high and you start listening to him more. Quit acting like you know everything. Like,
we're not supposed to be acting a certain way. It's really, we have to do what's in our heart. Like, Source knows what's in our heart, and we're supposed to act that way. We're not supposed to put on airs. We're not supposed to duplicate somebody else or do what the magazines say, whatever it is. We're supposed to be ourselves.
Yeah, remove the ego, and it's got everything to do with removing ego. And it's what we're not supposed to be acting like everybody else. It's more like this: kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Seriously, keep it simple. Keep it sweet. Just be for a half a second. Just be, and then just jump right into it. How you feel led to be. If you know what, I feel like, I don't know. I get the sudden urge to bake. This has happened. I was getting the sudden urge to bake over Christmas because Source told me this mailman always comes along, and Source told me, I want you to make him cookies, because you're probably the only person. And in my head, I'm like, man, maybe I'm the only person that gives him cookies. And he's one of those straight faced guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we make small chit chat. And so here I am thinking I'm going to make cookies for everybody. Later on, Source was like, I just wanted you to make cookies for him, but it's okay. You ate the cookies anyway. We're good to go. So, but all of a sudden, I mean, just what one person would think was, you're just making cookies, big freaking whoop. No, for me, I got this sudden sense of urgency. I've got to do this. For some reason, I have got to make this man cookies. If it's the last thing I do, this is what I have to do for him. I've got to make this mailman cookies. So me and my siblings, me and my daughters got into the kitchen. We started making him cookies, and I just started feeling Source's presence, and I started feeling childlike, and we were making cookies, and we were joking, and we were having a good old time while I was just making him cookies. And I touched the cookies, and I put all the good energy that he needed into them, so that when he ate them, he felt lighter. Right. And I gave them to him, and of course, a couple of weeks later, he probably thought I forgot, but I gave them to him. He was like surprised. He was completely surprised. Sure enough, every time I see him, we'll stop and have a conversation, and he'll level with me, and we're talking, and I'm like, Daddy's like, see, he brought him out of his shell. And I'm like, this was fun. It's right. Just little things like that. I just allowed for it to happen. And don't ever sit there and minimize and look at something as silly or goofy, because it could actually be an assignment that you need to do. So right. Screw what anybody else says is ridiculous, because if what he's saying doesn't add up to what they're saying, then seriously, they're obviously the ones in the wrong. Don't question it. Just move on. Just do what you were told. So.
Yeah. We're so influenced by other people, aren't we? We want to fit in so bad, Exactly.
It's like I don't know if you know who Lance Wallno is.
No.
No, him and Kim Clement actually work kind of closely together. Lance Wallno. He's on Facebook if you want to go see him. He's very good. He's completely of the light. He's one of us. Put it that way. Safe to say. Okay. He said yes. We were taught. I went to a conference and a seminar of his out here in Vegas, and he said there are 3 voices we hear. Or he was mentioning that we hear several different voices. We hear the enemy, we hear our parents and what they want from us, and we hear society. And the one we also hear is God's. What voice are you going to listen to? And you need to be able to discern what voice you're going to listen to. Right. And if and that means that, you might hurt family. You might hurt family that don't understand, and because they're just following tradition. You cannot help how they view you. You just can't. You have to, because you have to ignore what they say lovingly, hit them with love, but you also have to ignore what they say, because the only one you're trying to aim and please them. That's it. So I would rather say the reward that I'm going to get from Source, not that we do it for reward, but what the blessings I get from Source because of my obedience, I think far outweigh those from man. So why am I going to listen to you? I would rather please him, because pleasing him, there's a far better payout. There's far better, greater, feeling when you please him than man. And that's why, I've run into that struggle a lot in my life, where I've had to disobey people, because I'm not about to sit here and disobey him. I don't feel like getting in trouble with him. I don't want to get in trouble with him. I'd rather, because I've done it before. I thought I was listening to the right voice, and I ended up not listening to him. And he always gently lets me know, see, you didn't listen. And things ended. I only made things harder on myself. So, yeah.
We have an internal guidance system. So we'll call it the gut feeling or the red flag. So let's just say you're bebopping along and you've got a decision to make, and you say, okay, I'm going to do X. And you might have this little anxiety or worry or whatever. It's generally the red flag popping up, like you're doing the wrong thing. Yeah. And so we have that built into us, but we're so distracted by what's going on in society, the TV, the phone, little running around. We don't listen to that. We do the thing, then we have to correct and clean it up and all that. If we had done Y, we wouldn't have had that anxiety feeling, and we would have had a much smoother path. Exactly. That is how we learn. Of course, it's a lesson, and it's really being in tune with yourself. So one of the things I always say is, you need that white space in your life. And do you need to meditate to become enlightened? No. But maybe sitting down for 10 minutes with yourself and kind of tuning in and like trying to empty your mind or whatever, maybe that's the way you can start becoming sensitive to that inner guidance that you have. I mean, there's different techniques for other people, for every people.
But being willing to clear yourself anything extra, because our brains are, I like to look at brains like magnets. They're magnets and things attached to them, and you just kind of have to like shake it off really quick, sit and be like, okay, so that's resonating, so this is real. That's okay, gotta recognize. It's just learning how to recognize the yays and the nays. And another thing is that oh, that's another thing we have to recognize. So there have been times, like I said, there have been times I've disobeyed, but then there are also times where we have to learn, like speaking up. There have been times where I've spoken and I've heard him go, I told you to shut up, and you didn't. And so I'll sit there and I'm like, so then all of a sudden I go on to the opposite end of, I gotta say shut up all the time. Then all of a sudden, no, I need you to say that. And I'll check, I'll leave it alone, and I'll come back again. And if it's coming back and I'm getting that yes, then it's like, oh, and then I start feeling that anxiousness because I'm about to drop something that I don't know if people are going to appreciate it here. That's how I know that it's him. Yeah. That's how I know that it's him, because I have to have faith in him. There have been times where I've spoken and I didn't want to speak, but that feeling of not wanting to speak because I'm scared of what that person is going to say, that's always my sheer indicator. That I'm going to piss somebody off, that's always my sheer indicator. So I've gotten really good at ignoring what they say or how they may feel and just automatically, look, I've got daddy's backing me up. He's telling me this, so I really don't care. So I'm just going to go for it. It's being bold factor. And I think we all have our strength. We are all bold in different departments, but we need to kind of like stock up the boldness in different parts. So, yeah, I get that. Yeah, but I really think that's one of the problems is we don't listen to ourselves, who, then we have that automatic connection. We're listening out there, or we're not even aware that there is an out there and an inside. You know what I'm saying? Right. That we're just, yeah. And I'm sad about that, but I think that more that people learn and they learn to trust themselves, and then they get that connection, that, they're going to be more in the flow, like we say, go with the flow. Well, when you make a decision and it's a struggle and, it's like every step is a fight, that is not flow. So we should recognize that. Yeah. Retreat. Exactly. Because here's the cool part. When you do obey, sure, things might look hairy right there, and oh my God, and it's gonna try to get you to doubt yourself. But when you obey, validation is soon to follow. And we're not back 15 years ago where it would take forever to possibly validate. We're at the time of ascension where things are speeding up so fast that when you obey and you do what you're supposed to do, validation, you know how they say instant karma when somebody does something bad? Well, instant validation happens faster than instant karma. And you recognize it. And what's beautiful is when you are able to recognize the validation and you feel that amazing peace and that happiness wash over you. And you feel that hug, you feel his energy just beaming. And that's an amazing feeling when it makes everything that you happen with everybody else's attitude, everybody else's BS, it diminishes that completely. So you don't really care. You don't care. So that's another thing. I would tell folks, quit giving a crap about what anybody's going to say or do or feel. You can't feed that. That's what we hang. Those are hangups that we deal with. No, I'm not going to let your hangups be my hangups. Oh well, goodbye. And it might seem cold and that might seem callous, but it's not, especially when there are right intentions behind it. So right, and that's what it is. It's you. Source Daddy knows your heart and knows your intentions, and we make crazy decisions. Sometimes we do stupid things. We learn the hard way, but the more we can tune into what is the right path for us, what is helping us and our family and whatever we're trying to do, and do those things or think those things, it's going to make things a lot easier. And we're getting better at it. And it's going so fast now. I know.
like
Ooh.
the days used to be like you'd have 3 giant meals in the day and then you'd have snacks between and snacks. I mean, it's like you have breakfast and you look up and it's past dinner time. Like, what? The
I
days are
know.
going so fast.
The days
Yeah.
are like a time warp. I'll be going along, bumping along, and I'm like, where did this? I'll look at my husband like, baby, where did this day go? He's like, is it 4 o'clock already? I was like, mm-hmm. He goes, it was just 11 o'clock an hour ago. I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
and a lot of the time, I don't know if you've experienced this, Sue, but there will be times where, this I'm an excellent driver. Okay, when it comes to these worldly things, I pride my daddy taught me how to drive. I'm an excellent driver. I love to do it. I'm very vigilant. I love to drive. I don't have any anxiousness behind the wheel. I'm an excellent driver. There'll be times I know he's got me going through downloads, upgrades, or something because he will pull me out my body, and and my mom and I laugh at this all the time, and I'll just be cruising, going through all autopilot, not feeling like I'm in my body. I'm just gone. And then there'll be a minute where I'll sit at a stoplight and I'm like, oh my God, I'm driving. And it happens. I didn't even realize I'm driving.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm just on autopilot, just making sure, okay, you're just going through
Yeah.
the motions, checking your
Yeah.
mirrors and stopping because you can tell that there are cars in front of you, but I'm not in my body. There'll be times I'll go to the grocery store and I forgot I have a list in my hand and I'm forgetting what I need to buy. Like, this has happened many a time, and I don't sit there and say, "Oh, you should do." No, I just sit there and laugh and go, "Source, what am I doing up there?" They'll be like, "You shouldn't have left the house. Go to bed." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm gonna go take a nap. It's 4 in the afternoon. I need to get dinner on. I take a nap for like an hour. I'll be okay." So,
yeah, that's ridiculously funny.
That's true though. I'll be driving and I'm like, that. Ooh.
Have you ever done this? You'll be driving and you're like, you're breezing along the expressway or whatever. You just passed your exit and you're like, I just passed my exit.
Yeah. Or my turn. I missed my turn. And I'm like, I didn't there anyway. Apparently, I'm not going home. I'm just going to go the opposite.
Because you're in that zone. So you're getting lots of upgrades, downloads, whatever you want to call it then, all the time.
My goodness. Yes. There'll be times in this house, my family too. There'll be times where, and I'll be like, okay, they're really sleepy and tired today, whereas the day before we're all up and about, we're just doing things and we're here. The next day we just get this whole feeling in the house, and Sources like, go take a nap, go rest today, and I have to fight that. Oh, but it's a Tuesday and it's noon. You should be doing. And Sources like, shut that off. I've got you doing other things right now, and I just go and do that. If I have, that's what I'm on assignment for, then I do that.
Would you say that that's increased in the past, like maybe 6 months or so? Because I have noticed, what's that, a couple years?
It's been escalating within 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say the last 6 months, it's like insane. Like, insane.
Because I don't know if you've heard recently, I think you might have heard this, right? I heard another interview where we're in the start of 7D.
Yeah.
And that could not be any more evident. I mean, my husband is seeing fairies at night. We were sitting out in the front and we were just, we were relaxing. And he looked at me and I see things, but I didn't see what he was. I don't think when I see here, I saw what he was talking about, but in my physical eye, didn't see it. And he sits there and he's just like, babe, I think I just saw like a humming. Did you see that? I'm like, see what? He goes, a hummingbird. It's like in between those little branches right there. It's like a hummingbird, or it looked like a bee. I don't know what it was. And I'm like, babe, I didn't see that. You saw it. I said, I know what that is. Like,
I'm getting chills. Getting chills.
I know. I was excited. I was like, baby, and I say it such confidence because I'm so excited. And I'm like, baby, you just saw a fairy. He goes, must have been something, because he's like, I said, and here's another thing. I said, a fairy revealed itself to you. That's what happened. A fairy decided to emerge and allowed you to see him. Yeah. I said, I didn't see what you saw. That was for you. You got to see that, because I believed him, and I looked etherically and I saw, I know exactly what you're talking, because I'm like, baby, hummingbirds, and he knows this, and I'm just stating the facts so that it clicks a little more. I was like, baby, hummingbirds don't fly at night. He goes, no, I didn't think that. I said, neither do bees. He goes, yeah, no, they know? And I said, he goes, hey, I said, that was a fairy you saw. I said, how cool is that? He goes, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm like, baby, fairies? You kidding me? They're great. Are you serious? You want a fairy around you? That's awesome. So we got excited and we went back in the house and he was at ease, but I thought to myself, I was like, you saw a fairy. I'm over there dancing in my head. I was so excited. So yeah, that's people who aren't even spiritually as activated. I mean, you're activated, but those that don't boldly work out of it, they're seeing things too. And they can't deny it. You're seeing things all over the place. And if you're not seeing things, heavy quotation marks, it's because you're choosing to look the other way and you're trying.
Exactly. They somehow they don't recognize it in their brain, or they put it in the back burner, or I don't know, they rationalize it. I don't know exactly what they do.
They're used to the programming so much because the programming is comfortable to them, because heaven forbid they are told that they saw an angel or a fairy or something. They're going to be viewed as crazy because they're thinking that they're crazy. And it's like, yeah, but have you ever thought this that you're living is crazy? Sitting in front of the TV and believing that that's normal is crazy. Like, that's not supposed to be. Our lives aren't here. This is what they call regular televised programming.
Yeah.
What the hell do you think they are trying to tell you? So
yeah, it's awful. I know. We could probably talk about that stuff all day because we're on the same page there. Right. My poor friends, like, we'll be somewhere and they'll say something. I'm like, well, blah blah blah, and I'll tell them, what's really happening. They just look at me.
You're gracious, right? You just sit there and you're like, in your head, you're doing energy work, and you're just like,
yeah.
Okay.
And I'll throw stuff out there and they don't pick up the line. They don't want to know, like
that part.
Don't want to know, because when it's uncomfortable, right?
Exactly.
So I'll say, well, that's because such and such, and they'll just like, and then go.
Right. You don't even want to touch it. It's almost like you gave them a hot potato. They're just like, I'm not playing. We're moving on. And you're like, I'm not trying to offend you here. I'm just, like this whole thing with Ukraine and Russia and everything. Yeah. As soon as I saw what was going on, I was told in my gut, look at the opposite of that. So it's almost like an opposites game. Whatever you see there, look at the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see. It's
who has the ulterior motive? Who has the gain from whatever?
And I'm just kind of like, oh, so when I see the news, don't get mad at me. This is to other people. Don't get mad at me. Not that I watch the news very often, but for hoops and giggles, my husband and I will watch it and we giggle. It's the new Comedy Central. It really is. But we'll watch it, and in my head, I'm giggling to myself, going, "Hey, that means good things are actually happening. Cool. That means things are working, or they're happening on behalf of humanity. I'm excited. Like, let's go."
Yes, exactly.
And people probably, everybody else that's used to it probably like, oh my goodness, she's so callous. What is wrong with her? Why would you laugh at that? This is some serious, tragic stuff. And it's just kind of like, reverse the goggles and look again.
Exactly. I mean, it is sad because, the average citizen over there is being greatly affected. That
part. Yes.
That's horrible.
I do not laugh at I laugh at the lies being told. That's what I laugh at.
And the people can't eat it up fast enough. It's like the crisis of the month. At first it's the COVID and we're all going to die, and when that starts to die down, then they bring out the variant and blah blah blah. Now they bring out the war, and now they're bringing out like something's going to happen next week, and then there's like fear, and they suck it right up.
That's literally, candy can't be sold faster, and it's just kind of like, okay, you have to be willing to turn it off, because that's not real. It's really not real. That's why I just sit there and I work on faith, and I continue to, because this is what source will allow me to control. I can control vibrating higher. I can control being happy. I can control, following his source directives or working out of my own free will. So what am I going to do? I'm going to choose to work in source directives, be happy, and trust source every step of the way. And if I look nuts to others, call me crazy. I don't care. It's almost like there's a Tim Clement book that said, call me crazy, but I think I'm hearing God. No, call me crazy, but I know I'm hearing source.
Yeah.
I know I'm hearing source, and I don't care. You can call me crazy. I'll laugh all the way to the funny farm. I could
Yeah.
care less.
That's
Raise over
great.
there.
It's great. I love it. I love the fact that you're so confident, so tuned in. And of course, you're raising your children. You know, like you really had a great childhood and opportunity growing up, but you're really helping them as well because you now have the benefit of seeing that and then comparing to like what the average citizen has gone through, right? And so you'll be able to raise really well-adjusted kids. It's so exciting, isn't it?
I am excited, and I love it because I'll sit there and I'll ask them questions. I'm like, so Gia, have you seen this one? Oh yeah, I love it too because when I ask them questions, it's like, yeah, I saw that, Mom, and that was cool, and I saw this, and I did that, and I saw this, and I did that, and I'm like, honey, wow, okay, and I will learn something as I'm listening to them talk. Never will I ever sit there and tell them. I mean, except for Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, I don't ever. Everything else, honey, did you know this is real? Honey, did you know this is real? And she'll be like, yeah, Mom, Dad, Mom, I love, I said, you see frequencies? Yeah, all the time. I said, do you love frequencies? They're like, yeah, what kind of colors do you see? I do this color and that.
Wow,
color.
that's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, they love it. And me and my husband and I can't help but go, and if I were to stick my kids in school, the school wouldn't be able to handle them. And they would be telling us, they would try to lie to us and tell them.
They try to drug them.
You have ADD, they have this, and I'm like, no, and they don't. So that's one of the reasons why I keep them out, to protect them and protect their innocence, protect their imaginations. You have to. I mean, they're brilliant, and I'm not going to suppress what they see. I refuse. I can't do that.
Right.
But yeah.
So we talked a little bit about keeping your vibration high, and you gave us some tips and ideas. Any inspirations that were really helpful to you that you might be able to pass along to someone that's watching this? Like anything that, you know, you'd recommend for people to like help them grow, learn more, awaken, whatever the word might be.
Well, considering we're in a very serious society, I would tell them to laugh more. Seriously, laugh, as silly as that might sound to the naked ear. Laugh more, because when you start to, I tell my kids this all the time. You find inspiration in laughter. Try to look for him anywhere you are, and if it resonates, then you know you're hearing from him. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself in how you can hear him, or how you can feel him, or how you can see him. And pay attention. Pay attention. Don't be shut off. Pay more attention to what's going on out there. And where you see there may not be a possibility, look at the opposite, and we're literally work in the words of, with source, anything is possible. So start activating in that. So literally everything that you might have learned, toss it out the window. But when it comes to laughter, exercise laughter as much as possible, because it is truly healing. There'll be times where I'll be going through it, and I'll sit there, or my mom will be texting each other, and I'll be like, Mom, and she'll be like, Nana, and you know, that's my nickname. We'll go back and forth, and she'll be like, and she's like, laugh. And even if I don't want to laugh, I find myself going, wait.
And then you laugh at yourself because you're so stupid.
And then it's like, don't say that. I'm just getting you to laugh. Good for you. So I start to exercise that, and I literally feel myself go from here to vibrating higher. And then I hear him laugh with me, and everything's dandy. Everything's awesome. Not even, I'm so glad. See, they almost had you, but you kept going. So good for you. And I do the same thing with my mom. Like, Mom, right now, and because we all want to. Oh my God, this happened, and I'm so irritated. No, when we stop myself, and I'll just, Mom, laugh. Mom, laugh now. Mom, laugh, because you're not focusing on the right thing. She'll start laughing. Okay, we good? And I'm like, good. I'm glad we're good. So let's start. You know, I laugh.
And it's great that you have the kids, because if you're having one of those moments, you know, just being around them, they lighten you up. They make you laugh, you know. And
even with them, I have to, they get me to laugh, and I allow it to happen, or I get them to laugh. Do you know how ridiculous? Do you know how, I'm ridiculous. I'm not going to lie. I'm freaking ridiculous. Sometimes I'll be sitting there, and, you know, one of my kids will be sad or something else. I don't care. I talk in sock puppets all the time. My kids think it's hilarious. I use my hands, and I get goofy and everything. And then they turn around, Mommy, I love you. Like, I love you too. And we give big old hugs. And we literally, as we are laughing at them, I've taught the kids this. especially when they're fighting. When see they're laughing at you right now because you two are fighting. I said, you need to stop, recognize what's going on, and laugh at them. And so I'll sit there and I'll laugh with them. I'm like, haha, see, look at them. And I said, they can't stand the fact you're laughing at them, and they're running away. So once that happens, the house gets so much lighter. The kids start laughing together, and we're all having a good time. Seriously, laughter is huge. Don't ever minimize laughter.
All right. That's a great suggestion. I feel like we have, I feel like we could talk, well, probably for hours. And maybe what we should do is do more videos down the road and just, yeah.
Sounds
okay,
good.
great. So I appreciate your time very much. And hopefully this will help inspire people. Again, when I think about how you've grown up, it's really strong family connection, being very open-minded, and very centered in who you are and what your heart says, and I feel like that's so important for people to listen to.
Exactly. I think so too. And I'm actually really looking forward. Hopefully somebody will stop and go, oh crap. So I've been hearing him the entire time and didn't know it. That would be the goal. Because in my opinion, I believe everybody does hear him. You just have to pay attention and realize and whether you are.
Yeah. And I think it's a trust factor too. You're right. And I think you mentioned that earlier. It's trusting yourself, and that, you've got it, like you said, those different voices. It's picking the right voice. Does it feel good? Does it feel supportive and loving? Does it, or is it manipulative and trying to make you do X, Y, or Z?
And like when you exercise that, you will automatically be able to go, oh, that's manipulative. That energy is not from him. His energy feels light. And even in his correction, his energy feels light. So that's definitely not him. I'm just going to dismiss that and dismiss it quickly. And you just get better and better at it. So
yeah, I agree with you. Like once you start practicing this discernment, it gets better. Once you start learning the lessons, like lessons are hard. We all have them. We learn the lesson, and then that's off the table. And then the next one comes. We get better at doing the lessons and understanding that it is a lesson. And then once we learn it, we don't have to repeat it again. It's pretty beautiful. It's just hard when you,
how long you want to learn this lesson. It's up to you.
Yeah. Because it could take us a lifetime to learn a lesson. And that isn't as much fun as learning them quickly and easily.
You're preaching to the choir. I got sore stuff. Okay, you're getting there. And I overcome and I feel good. And then, it's just getting used to staying in that power. And like I said, exercising that muscle. So,
Anything else you/source wants to tell the viewer?
You're extremely loved.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
You're extremely loved, and just look for him everywhere. And don't ever diminish how powerful you are or who's inside you. Because when you're walking with him, everybody's going to get touched. So don't even relax.
What a beautiful message.
I got that resonated from my soul. And I'm over here tingling. I love it when he talks like that, because then I just, you just feel light and bright and airy. It's awesome.
So beautiful. Thank you. Like people, I think in general don't feel good enough. They have a lot of that self-doubt you mentioned. Well, we all have it, but they don't feel good about themselves. They compare. They go outside and they feel alone. And we're all in that boat. We all have that. So,
and that's why reach out to someone that will be there. I mean, I know what it's like to have my mom. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have her there. But at the same time, because she and I bounce off each other very well, but I do specifically feel for those that might feel like they are all by themselves in this journey. And if you have somebody and you need to talk to them, go talk to them. Seriously, go talk.
We're lucky we have our group, our Jedi group. So we're very lucky.
Source for that. And I mean that with every soul of my body. Thank you.
I mean, we have a problem or something, we put it out there. We have instant support.
Yes, exactly. And we're able, we feel instantaneously better after we actually trust.
Totally.
And we help them out too, because what we're doing is, as we are coming to them with our issue, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. We're helping them exercise, and then if they come to us, we exercise it back on them. And so we're just back and forth, straightening our muscles.
It's raising the vibration of ourselves, the group, the people around us. It ripples out. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we will talk again.
Yes, looking forward to it.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You too.